All right. Hi, guys. How are you today? Looks like we got a small group with us, but I know all you guys, and we're going to do a nice, good introduction for our first project. If you've already gone ahead, which you could have, right? If you've already gone ahead and watched the pre-recorded demos, this is going to be a condensed version of that. But I'm going to condense it down so that you can ask some questions if you have them pertaining to your very first project. But if you want a more lengthy explanation as far as how to actually do the project, again, I got those pre-recorded videos in our Blackboard course content panel, and then you're going to be able to kind of watch those videos multiple times if you want to reference them. Also, I'm recording this session, so if you want to, maybe if you ask a question, something specific, and you want to answer to that, and you want to check that answer again, obviously you're welcome to do that. Also, just in general, after today's class, I'm going to send out an announcement, basically just to make sure that those students that are in the class are able to meet during the regular, this Wednesday 1 p.m. time. I want to make sure that everyone can meet if they want to. However, if they don't want to, if they're content, watching the pre-recorded videos, so be it. Who am I to judge? So, anywho, hi guys, I can see you all there. We're going to go ahead and jump on in. Just to make sure you guys are with me, do me a favor if you don't mind, pop something really nice over in the chat room just so I know we're hanging out and we're all available and here. And I'm going to go ahead and jump into our demo in a second. Hello, hi Jordan. How you been? Jordan, I know that you had sent me an email a little while back over break there about your portfolio. I haven't gotten a chance to actually assist you with that, but I still very much would like to. So we can kind of talk, in the future here. But I'm more than happy to still help you out with that and kind of make sure that your portfolio is as strong as it possibly can be. Yeah. How's everybody else today? Brian, Brianna, how you guys? Y'all good? Good, good, Brian. Good to hear. Good to hear. Just as a kind of open FYI, I guess, for the sake of our demo today and probably our future demos, I'm going to be using GIMP only because, again, my previous recordings I used Photoshop, and I'm trying to make sure that everyone can kind of see how to use these applications. So if you want to see specifically a Photoshop demo, like I said, I previously recorded that, and then if you want to see today, we'll do it in GIMP. If you are using Photoshop, but you're watching today's demo, you are still very much going to be able to utilize the information. It's very, very similar, GIMP and Photoshop. Some things are in different places, but for the most part, they work exactly the same. So there shouldn't be any stress as far as if you're using a different application and whatnot there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in. Like I said, today is going to be a short demo because if you want a lengthier one, there's a lengthier explanation already posted to our course content tab. But this is also being recorded, and then after we're done, I'm going to answer each and every one of your individual questions about this project and moving forward. This first project, as I'm sure you guys have already seen, isn't all that complicated. You are basically going to do a two-tone and then technically a three-tone painting. And you're allowed to trace, so it doesn't get any easier than that. But this is a really, really good foundation to build your digital painting skills. So even though for a lot of you, I'm going to guess this is a little bit rudimentary, it's a little like 1 or 2 notches below your skill level, go through the process. Just kind of trust me a little bit. I'm not going to steer you wrong. If you go through this process of kind of simplifying an image down into its basic forms, just like if you guys took a painting class with me, it's the same exact concept. We're just going to simplify it down to its basic forms so that we can kind of manipulate those and then build it back up again, adding more and more value. For these first, I think, 3 projects, we're working purely in black and white. Maybe it's the first 2 projects. We'll cross that bridge when we get to project 2. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to turn off my camera. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you guys can see exactly what's going on. And again, like I mentioned to you before, this session is being recorded, and so that way you can always go back and watch it again. Also, at the end of our demo, again, because it's a short demo, at the end of our demo today, if you do have questions pertaining to the project and or if you have questions pertaining to really any aspect of our class, Blackboard or otherwise, I'm happy to answer those questions. So again, here's our first project. This is just the course content tab, opening up project 1. And again, we're going to do a movie still image with a 2-tone. Technically, it's a 3-tone. I'll explain why in a second. This first tab right here is the actual project specifications. You can open that up and you can view all of those specifications. All this information that I'm saying here is going to be repeated in today's class. Right here is a fellow artist that I am friends with, and he had posted this a couple of years ago actually, but it's a really good breakdown on what we're doing for our process, right? When you get down here to this bottom level using full value, even though he's kind of doing cross-hatching, you can see these crisscross lines, you can tell what the picture is, you can see all that detail. If you start painting here, it's always going to be a more challenging, more difficult process. You want to break it down into easier simplified values. So right here we've got 2 images with 4 value. That's black, gray, light gray, and white. Here we've got 3 values, black, gray, and white, and this is what our first project will end with. And then today what we're going to focus on is just purely black and white. So notice that these are not detailed at all. You can see how scribbly they are. These are not meant to be detailed. It is simply a way of kind of you being the artist making a decisive action, saying this is in shadow or this is in highlight, and that's it. That is all you're doing. Then we'll add in a midtone, but don't jump to this stage 3 here. You want to really go through the steps. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier. Okay. I've also, like I said, I've got the examples here, different videos, and then I also have previous student examples too. So if you want to see what other students have done before you and what we're kind of aiming for, I've got those in there as well. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and jump on into GIMP. Like I said, for today's demo, I'm going to be using GIMP, but you could do the exact same thing in Photoshop or in Affinity. They all work very similar for the purposes of our assignment. As an aside, today I'm using I have a Wacom tablet off on the side of my computer. If you want to do this on your iPad with Procreate, or you want to use, Sketchbook or something like that, there are hundreds of different apps that you could totally do this with. I'm going to be using GIMP, and I have a Wacom drawing tablet off on the side of my computer. This guy I've had for many, many years, so he is well worn, but he does the job. All right, so in GIMP, we've got our tools off on the left-hand side. We have kind of our properties over on the right-hand side. This is, again, very similar to how Photoshop works. And with these tools, GIMP's tools look a little bit different than Photoshop, but I'm just going to go ahead and grab the paintbrush tool. That's all I'm going to need for this assignment. Now, in GIMP, it works, again, a little bit different, but all of those brush properties are over here on the left. In Photoshop, they would be up on the top. I can change the size of my brush. I can change the hardness of my brush, how soft or how light it is. And I can change the brush itself, the opacity of the brush, all these things. Again, if you've had Graphic Design 1, if you've used Photoshop before, then you are used to this. If it's new to you, then again, this might be something you might want to ask me a question about at the end of class. I just grabbed this picture here of Sean Connery playing James Bond because I really wanted a high contrast image to play with. You can use any image that you want to. Again, this is just a practice to make sure you guys feel comfortable as we move forward. Again, I'm going to be honest with you. It's our first project, so I'm going to cheat, like straight out. I'm just cheating. So here's what we're going to do. I've got this image. Mine's in color already. I'm going to go ahead and desaturate it. Again, in GIMP, I'm clicking on Colors. I'm coming down to Desaturate and clicking Desaturate. That will desaturate. It will remove the saturation, the color. Now I can adjust that. I'm just going to hit OK. And this really lets me see some of those values. Look at the difference between his white overcoat here and that highly shadowed background, right? But remember that it's those high shadows in the background that make the white look as white. You need both to really make things pop off the screen. Obviously, in this case, he's got a kind of neutral tone for his skin. In the movie, of course, he's very well lit. So we'll work with that. Now, again, I'm going to cheat again. I'm going to click on Colors, And you could do exposure, brightness, contrast, levels, any of those. I'm going to do brightness and contrast. And we're going to go ahead and take this menu, and I'm just going to raise that contrast. And that's going to really crank this up. And it's going to allow me to see very quickly where those shadows and highlights are, right? Now, here's my suggestion, because the whole purpose of this project is to train your eyeball. That's the whole purpose. So if you want to use brightness and contrast so you can see, right, you can see what the end result is going to look like. So if I crank up the brightness and I crank up the contrast, it really lets me see, okay, there's the white kind of highlight of his face. There's that heavy, heavy shadow. I don't even see his hair anymore. His outfit is almost purely outlined. It is such a white on black kind of background here, right? So I want to kind of get this image in my head. My suggestion to you is this, and again, you don't have to. There's no way I would know. You could just hit OK and start painting right on top if you wanted to. But I would suggest you don't. I would suggest that you look at the brightness and contrast, get it in your mind's eye, and then hit cancel. You are welcome to utilize that if you want to, but I really want to encourage you guys to train your eyeball to basically do that in your mind so that you don't need to have the computer adjust the brightness and contrast. The purpose is for you to actually be able to say, oh, look, there's a line right there for shadow, right? You want to be able to, the person who's making those judgment calls, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. Again, if you guys have been with me before, you know that I love layers. So in GIMP, this first little icon will make a new layer. I hit OK, and there's my new clear layer on top. Again, Photoshop is in basically it's the same location. I make a new layer, of course, so that I can draw without actually, messing anything up. And then one other thing that you might want to do, again, just to make your life a little bit easier because we are painting with black and white, you can imagine if I add black onto a black background, well, I don't even see it, right? It just disappears. That's not really any good, doesn't really help anyone. So I'm gonna go to this James Bond photo right here, and I'm just gonna notch the opacity down a little bit. In fact, I'm actually gonna make another layer. I'll explain why here in a second. I'm gonna drag that layer underneath James, and I'm just going to use my paint bucket to fill it in white. So in essence, I'm just kind of washing out this photo. You can see here beforehand, you get that checkerboard pattern. And again, if you haven't used any digital painting apps before, that checkerboard just means there's nothing there, that it is transparent, it's see-through. So by putting a white background on James there, I've just kind of washed him out a little bit. And again, I've done that by dropping the opacity down. You don't have to do it a lot, but that really will help you so that now, whenever I go to my top layer and I paint, let's say I paint the color black, again, you can actually see it, right? So that's kind of the idea that we're going for. Again, these are just techniques that I personally use. You may choose to find a different route, and I want to encourage that by all means. I'm going to go ahead and zoom on in. I'm just using the magnifying glass up top here. You can also just pinch zoom. That works fine too. And again, I'm going to focus for right now. I want to focus on his face. So we're going to go ahead and jump on into the actual painting part. But before I do that, I want to click back just for a moment to our chat room here. Chat room, do you guys have any questions for me so far? Is there anything that I can do to answer up to this point? Are you guys feeling good? Feel comfortable? Yep. Okay. Good, Brian. Thank you, guys. Thank you. You're good. Excellent. Good. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not losing you guys here. Jordan, perfect. Excellent. Nia, good. Okay. Okay. All right. Good. Good. Here's what I'm going to do. As I'm drawing, just because I'm going to be drawing in real time here, I'm going to leave my audio on. If you guys do have a question at any time, please just turn your microphone and kick it on in, only because I can't see the chat room and our screen at the same time. Okay. So actually, I guess I can I? Looks like I'm doing like a Twitch screen or stream here. Let's see, can I align that? Ooh, nope, I just lost my screen. Dang it. Sorry. Bring it on back. Nope, not gonna let me do it. Okay, I'm not gonna fight it. So yeah, if you do have a question, guys, just go ahead and turn on your microphone and I will answer it. I'm going to try to narrate as I go along here. So I am now switching over my Wacom. I have selected the paintbrush. Again, I'm just using a plain circle brush. You can see here, just a normal old circle brush. Nothing really fancy to it. You're welcome to use a square brush or anything like that. Again, in GIMP, you can just click on this little circle here, and that will give you your options. Right, so I could switch over to a more of a square brush if I wanted to. I won't lie to you, when I paint myself, when I do digital painting, whether it's in Procreate or with the computer here with GIMP, I do prefer a square brush. That's just me personally. But that's also because in the real world, when I paint with oil paints on like a canvas, let's say, I also prefer a square brush. For the sake of this project, the honest truth is it doesn't really matter. It's really much more about your personal preference. I'm going to turn my brush up here to, let's see, get kind of a medium-sized brush for the scale of our painting. One thing that you really want to be careful about, it's going to be tempting to sit and try to outline everything, right? It's going to be really tempting to do this. I want to very much encourage you to not do this, right? Outlining is not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to be where you want to be. I want you instead to think about shapes, okay? So really, really think about like, where are the shapes of shadow on his face, right? And if you accidentally paint something over, remember you can always just add more paint on top of it. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But we're gonna go ahead and jump on in here. Again, I'm just kind of drawing. I've got a little bit of lag on my computer because of the video streaming, but we should be okay. I'm gonna do kind of a shape for his eyebrow here. Look at like the socket underneath. This is all one big shadow shape right in there. I'm going to say his eyeball is kind of one big shape. And now we're just going to fill that in. Again, I'm getting some hard edges right now because of the lag, but you guys kind of get the general gist as to what we're going for here. Okay, so again, one big shape. If you can connect your shapes, like I've done here with the eyebrow and this eye socket area, please do. It's a really good idea to connect those shapes, as opposed to putting like little lines everywhere, right? So something like this here. Ooh, come on. You know, these little lines everywhere. That's not good for anyone. You want to think about big, big shapes, really kind of work those shapes around. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Now it looks like he's got chicken pox. Let's get rid of that. Okay. All right, so again, I'm just going to go ahead here and kind of outline. You can use more of like a straight line effect. If you guys know like the Loomis method, excuse me, the Barg method, that's fine. Obviously, I can't really see his hair anymore. I know it's in there. It's, again, tempting to kind of guess, but I really want you to just ignore it. If it bleeds off into the background, then we're going to assume that it just disappears. Again, I'm getting kind of the edge here of his forehead. I'm going to kind of slice it up a little bit with these hard edges. Ooh, that lag is killer. Yikes. Let's go ahead and try to get that eyebrow in there. If you have to, if you're a little concerned, I want you to use harder edges rather than trying to make things perfect, right? Now remember that we're only working with pure black and white here. So I can see there's some wrinkles in his forehead, and it's my job as an artist to decide how I'm gonna handle that. Like I was talking about over here on his cheek, I really want you to stay away from a single line. So having just an outline here for his forehead isn't gonna work. Instead, you wanna think about a big, solid shape. So I have to ask myself, these lines in his forehead, over top of this highlighted area on his forehead, is it pure black or pure white? Well, in this case, I think the forehead itself is highlighted. So I'm going to leave it white, and I'm going to ignore those wrinkles on his forehead entirely, okay? Again, I'm just kind of cutting up this space a little bit into kind of shapes. Oops. Man, that lag is killer. I'm going to have to work on that next time. When we have our next meeting, I'm going to see if I can't just maybe close down some of the other applications I have running. For his nose here, I'm going to zoom in just so you guys can really see what we're getting into. For his nose, okay, I've really got this edge right here. You can see right about where my mouse is. This is the highlighted area, right? That's the bridge of the nose sticking forward. And then the sides of the nose on either side are kind of in shadow. So again, if I can, I'm going to try and connect all of these shapes into one big old shape right here. And again, I apologize about that lag. That is rough. I can see that he's got kind of this bag under his eye, so I'm just going to draw it as I see it. Okay, and that's really the hardest part of this first project, is kind of telling your brain to stop, right? Sometimes we think we know what the right answer is, and then we try to kind of outdo ourselves a little bit. We try to say like, okay, well, I know what it's supposed to look like, so I'll just force it to be that way. Instead, just literally, I want you to trace, like literally trace exactly what you see, right? So we go ahead and edge his face right there. Oops. Scroll up a little bit. Cut that off. So all I'm doing is making decisive opinion kind of moves here. So right here, he's got a little bit of shadow on his eye socket. And I'm just making the choice to kind of color that in a little bit. And again, it is your choice as the artist how you choose, or what you choose to color, in black as opposed to in white. So like right here, he's got a little bit of that nostril, a little bit of this nostril. I see light on this side and light on that side. I don't want a single line right there. It's not a good idea to go linear with this. You want to think shapes. So I'm going to put a little bit of shade right here on the side of his nose. I think that would work, but I'm going to leave the rest of it alone. I'm not going to get too much into this here. I like that shadow under his nose. For his lips here, again, I probably should just use a smaller paintbrush. That would probably be the right answer. Of course, his cigarette comes in there. This is about the time I put in a don't smoke public service announcement for the class, but let's be honest, if you are a international man of mystery for the 1960s and have the ability to kill bad guys, I guess you're allowed to smoke. It's understandable, really. At that point, I don't think anyone will judge you. Just getting that shadow kind of underneath his bottom lip there. This is kind of the shadow from the cigarette itself. That's what that is right there. And again, it feels weird painting that, right? It feels like I should be doing something different, like the white of the cigarette and the white here of the highlighted part of his skin. Those are two different values. But again, I have to make the decision of what is and is not in shadow. So like for me, I see a shadow under the cigarette right here. I'm going to add that in as well, right? But I don't want just a single line sticking out. So I'm going to turn that into a shape. So again, trying your best to use shapes and not line. Can't emphasize that enough. Okay. Oops. Come on. Keep up with me, Gib. All right. Again, just getting kind of the edge of his chin here. I'm moving my screen using the spacebar. The same works in Photoshop as well if you want to kind of navigate, rather than using these little scroll bars here on the side. If I just hold down the spacebar and click and drag, I can move my canvas. So right here, he's got a couple of wrinkles. Again, I want to turn that into a shape. And again, I probably would be switching my paintbrushes along the way. I'm really, for the sake of the demo and the sake of the lag on the computer here right now, I'm really trying to speed up the process just by using one single paintbrush. In your case, feel free to use bigger and smaller paintbrushes to make things easier for you. So I'm going to end up filling all this in. I think a lot of the backside here of his head, all of this is in pretty heavy shadow. Again, we're back to this eyeball where we started. And I'm just going to cut that down. We're going to say all of this inside here is going to get colored in. Just moving up the screen here a little bit. Oops. I can tell it looks like the shadow on his top of his eyelid cuts right there. The back side here cuts right about there. There's a little bit of reflected light on this side of the cheek. So I'm going to kind of turn that into, again, kind of a highlighted shape. Now remember that normally we would need to paint white back on top, but in this case, I'm just going to make the background white, and then it won't really much matter. For his ear, I can see there's a little bit of highlight right here on the edge of the ear. So I'm going to try and kind of fill this in a little bit. And again, just keeping the edge of that ear as kind of a little highlighted rim right there. And again, trying to keep it as a shape, right? I know I've said that like 6 times, but just try to keep it as a big shape. Sometimes working angular, works a little bit easier for this kind of stuff because again, we are simplifying it. So it's almost like you're kind of doing a cubist style painting. All this is going to get colored in as well. I'm going to go ahead and zoom on out. And already the face is kind of coming to life a little bit, right? It's a simple process, but it does the job. It really does. I'm going to go ahead and make my paintbrush just a little bit bigger. Whoa, too big. Let's do something like that, just so I can fill this area in. I can't actually see the chat room, but you're welcome to turn on your mic so that you can ask.
Oh no, I was just, that looks great. Like when you had it zoomed in and you were just doing the shapes, I didn't really see like how is this gonna come out, with all the darkness. But it really looks good. It looks just like his face.
Thank you. That's really sweet of you. Yeah, no, you're spot on. It's one of these things, almost like putting together a puzzle, right? At first, it just looks like this weird kind of mess, and you're not wrong. I feel the same way when I'm painting it. When I'm zoomed in and I'm painting it, I feel the exact same way. I feel like, man, where is this going? And you kind of have to, again, you kind of have to turn your brain off a little bit and just kind of trust the process, that it's going to work out, and there really isn't a better way to do it other than, again, like I said, just trust the process, trust that it's going to work, especially because this first time we are tracing, so it literally will work. For your second project, you won't be tracing as much, but I promise you, by the time you get to your second project, it's going to be in your brain so much that that you're going to be able to do this without any problems. But yeah, no, thank you. That's an excellent comment. Thank you. So again, I'm just kind of filling in some of this space right now. I am thinking about the background as well. I'm going to get to that cigarette there in a second. But I'm just filling this space in. And again, you could use a bigger paintbrush, obviously, to make this go quicker. I just know if I use a bigger paintbrush, I'm going to lag the computer down even more than it already is. And just for the sake of argument, I'm going to turn off the layer with the photograph on it, just so we can see. And again, it's in there, right? It's not perfect, and that's okay. It's not about being perfect, but it's there, and just like we were talking about, just like a good puzzle piece, this is all we're really going for, right? This is it. So I would keep going along here. I would do the exact same with his outfit and everything else. And again, the thing that I really want you to take away is I'm the artist because I'm the one drawing the line. I'm the one deciding the shadow will be here on the cheek. And even, again, just we can do this a second time here. I'm going to increase the opacity for a second. Let's compare and contrast. So just like we did at the very beginning here, I cranked up the brightness and contrast. I let the computer decide. All right, so we'll crank that up. We'll crank that up. Okay, so if the computer was in charge, this is what we'd be doing, right? Let's see how close I got for myself. Looks like I did a little bit more on the cheek, I think. See right here? I did a little bit more over there. His eyes are a little bit off, but it's almost weird. You can kind of see the cigarette in there, right? Just the way the shadows are. Whereas here, you kind of almost lose that cigarette. Look at how it is on like his coat. Kind of disappears a little bit. So that's kind of the fun part about being the artist, is being the one to make the decision, right? Here, he's got a little bit of a shadow on this side of his nose. Do you see that nostril right there? And yet in mine, I left that open, right? So that's why, again, I really want to encourage you to, when you are working on this project, to have you be the one who's making the decisions. There's nothing wrong with getting an idea using the brightness and contrast filter, but when you're actually painting, I want you to be the one to make those decisions. And again, you can see, it's really simple. It should not be hyper complicated. It should not have little tiny lines squiggling all over the place. Stick with shapes. Even if, as you're painting, you maybe like, let's just pretend for a second here, I'm gonna draw. Let's pretend that all this side of James Bond's face, let's say it's all in shadow. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in here real quick, and I'm just gonna blow out this whole eyeball right here. We're gonna say it's all in shadow, okay? Just like so. Oops. right? Now, to you and I, it might be like, oh man, there's way too much shadow here. There's, you know, it almost looks like he's got like an eye patch on or something, right? But I promise when you start adding in those midtones, being the gray, the gray value, when you start adding that in, it'll all balance out, okay? Now, just as a heads up, for our next class, next week here, we're gonna talk even more about taking this idea and adding in some midtones to it. So what you would do kind of ahead of time, right? I'm gonna make a new layer because I love making layers. You can totally work on the same layer if you want to, that doesn't bother me. I just like layers. I'm gonna go ahead and pop open a medium gray. Just gonna go ahead and crank that up to a medium gray. That's 50% gray right there. And now I'm gonna go back, again, using my photo as kind of my reference. I would go back and add in my midtone. So anywhere that I see, again, still working with shapes, but we know that that's all in highlight. And this area here on his face is all in shadow, but maybe it's not heavy shadow, right? I'm gonna make my paintbrush a little bit smaller. So like maybe his ear right here has a little bit of lighter shadowing on it, right? And I know it feels kind of, it feels kind of squiggly, right? Do not worry about perfectionism. That's not what we're here for. Maybe some of the highlights of his eyes. A little tear duct right there. Maybe he's got a little bit of shadow on that side of the face. Okay, and you're just going through and adding some gray shapes anywhere that you want to soften that transition from white to black. So we're just softening that transition. So like now this side of the nose would be a really good area for that medium gray, right? Still pushes it apart, but it's not as strong as the black. That black is a very, very strong value, and it will eat your pictures alive if you're not careful, which sometimes can be cool. So like I know this whole side of his face is in shadow, but I want to kind of open it up a little bit. So we're gonna put some shapes in here. And again, I'm just kind of scribbling. I normally would be referencing the photograph much more. Let's kind of open this up. We'll say that's kind of his temple right there to his forehead. We know his eyebrow's in there somewhere. I'm gonna fill this in. Again, it's just a matter of kind of softening as we go, right? Eventually, we get to the point where you'll start using a lighter gray and a darker gray. Again, if you had a painting class with me, this is the exact same process we do in our painting class. But it's just all about working those values so that we can kind of see the difference here in our painting, right? A little bit on that bottom lip. Maybe a hint right here on his cheek. But do be careful about outlining. Again, even right now for me as I'm painting, the temptation to just do outlines is really, really high. Like I very much want to, because you almost feel like outlines will make it better somehow. Like it'll clean or fix something up. And really don't. I'm telling you, just do not do any kind of outlines. It is not going to help you. I'm just going to toss a kind of rough estimate of about where his hairline would be. Right? And it's in there. Now, you can see with his eye here, I think I messed up a little bit. I think the paintbrush I'm using is a little too big. So I'm going to go back. And you can always mix and match, go back and forth, right? I'm going to go back and add, whoa, that is way too big of a paintbrush. Let's back that up. Yeah, 51. I was hoping for like 10. Let's try again. And don't be afraid to zoom in a little bit. That'll definitely help. I'm drawing pretty far out here. If any of you guys have ever done any kind of like spray painting or graffiti work or any kind of like street art kind of stuff, then you'll know about kind of adding a crisp and clean edge. And this is a good way, again, I want you to add as you're painting. So like, for example, I'm going to paint over here on the side real quick. If I wanted to get a bigger paintbrush, let's say that I paint kind of a blob right here. And let's say that I want to get a hard, crisp edge over here on the right-hand side, right? So if that's the case, I could erase, or I can just paint right on top. There's a line, and there's a line, and right there in that negative space that I painted, that's how you get crisp and clean edges, right? That's how, if you ever see like again, like a spray paint graffiti kind of painting, that's how they get clean edges when you're working with a round brush. Right? All right, so I'm going to zoom out again. This is a little bit rough. Again, I think with my paintbrush being a little too big, I think that set me off on the side. However, it's a good place to start at least. I think it's a pretty good place to start. I'm going to go ahead and just move this.
Professor Kozak?
Yeah, please, go for it.
Can you repeat, what did you said people use a round brush to do what?
Oh, people use a round brush, or whenever you're painting with a round brush, it's if you need to get like a really hard edge or like an angle on it, right? If you're trying to get an angle on it, you are, again, you can kind of see here I did in the corner, but I'll paint it once again. If I wanted to, let's say I have like a big old blob of black space, right? So I'm just going to get a big paintbrush. There we go, really big blob, right? Now, let's pretend, for example, that I really want, like right here where my mouse is, let's say that I really want a hard pointy edge right there. Well, how do I paint a hard pointy edge when my paintbrush is round, right? I have no hard edges to paint with, right? But if I get the opposite color, so I'm using white now, if I paint a straight line with a round brush, and then I paint a straight line with a round brush right there, now I've got a pointy edge, right? So when you're painting, add on top. If you're trying to get a pointy edge, you just want to keep adding, keep adding, keep adding. So like, for example, in my painting here of James Bond, if I zoom in, like his eyebrow right here, that crinkle in his forehead, I really want that to be like extra pointy. And right now you can see it's just kind of rounded off, right? So for me, I would get a small paintbrush, get right in here, and look at this. I'm just going to cut it off. And now I get that sharp, pointy edge in his eyebrow, like furrowing his brow right there. That's what I want. And sometimes you don't want a hard edge, right? But like here's his, again, his eyebrow kind of coming over on the side of his face. Maybe I want that to be pointy as well. And if I want it to be pointy, again, I'm just going to I'll grab this gray color that we were using, and I'm just going to paint and cut that out. Sound effects do help. And look at that. Now I got a really kind of sharpened, pointy edge on his eyebrow, right? That's kind of what we're going for. Again, if you're trying to get that sharp and pointy edge. Sometimes you want it to be round and soft too. But now you have the choice, even though you're using a round paintbrush, whoops, now you have the choice. Okay. Whoa, we're all over the place. All right, so conceptually, we have black and white, two-tone, and then we're slowly going to be adding kind of this mid-tone into it. Again, that's step 2. Do not rush into black, white, and gray. I really, really want to tell you, do your entire picture, your entire photo, just in pure black and white, highlights and shadow. Zoom in, get all the detail you want, as long as you're drawing with shapes and not trying to draw lines everywhere. Don't outline, nothing like that. Try to connect your shapes together so they're one big blob, right? His eye socket and this whole side of his head are the same big old shape. And yet somehow your brain fills in the details and knows exactly where everything is, right? So think about shapes, think about kind of flattening this down. We are simplifying this picture. You can do whatever paint or whatever image you want to start with is fine with me. You can Google search it, or if you just want to pull it off of like YouTube, off of like the trailer or something, that's fine too. I wouldn't go too complicated with it. Maybe 1 or 2 people in the picture. If you're doing 5 or 6 people, or have a really complicated thing in the background, a big starship or something, it's going to take you 15 years to try and paint it, and that's not good. So simple is better. And again, contrast is good. So really something where the character stands out from the background is going to make your life a whole lot easier as well. Do you guys have questions for me? Again, feel free to turn on your camera real quick if you'd like, or excuse me, not your camera, your microphone. Talk to me. What questions do you have about this very first project? Okay. So I'm hearing no questions, and that's okay if you guys feel good. So again, this is for our very first project. I don't want you to feel like you're struggling or anything like that. I will have these pre-recorded again, just to show you real quick. Today's session, if you want to view it, if you go into Collaborate Ultra, there's a little menu icon up in the upper left-hand corner, little like hamburger menu. There's 3 lines right there. Click on recordings, and then you'll see today's session. Once we're done, you'll see today's session posted, so you can go back and watch that. But also you can click on course content, click on project 1, digital painting, and scrub down here. And again, all these YouTube videos that I have posted here, right? Here's a demo, here's another demo. I've got a whole bunch of demos. They are all doing the exact same concept. These ones are using Photoshop. So if you're using Photoshop, you might want to watch those to refresh yourself a little bit, as some things in GIMP and Photoshop are in different places. But again, you've got plenty of access. This project, like I said, the actual assignment itself is right here, the two-tone project, and it is due on the 29th, so the end of the month. So you got 9 days to do this project. And again, for the example here, you are doing a two-tone, then you're going back and adding a 3rd value, this medium gray. So your finished product will have 3 values to it: black, white, and gray. It's still going to be simplified. It is not going to be super detailed or anything like that. We're looking for something in the vein of like, like this image right here. Still really simple, and you're just training your brain to see, where is the figure versus where's the background, right? What is highlighted, what is in shadow? 3 values. Start with 2, then add your 3rd. Questions about the project? Questions about anything else? Feel free, if you want, you can add in the chat room too. I can see you now. Okay, all right. Well, here's the deal. If you guys feel good, then I feel good. If you do have questions, remember that you can email me. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. You can also always schedule an appointment with me with that You Can Book Me account. It's over in our Blackboard page in the syllabus course info tab, or the teacher information tab. That's there. Obviously our syllabus is there. We have a schedule for all of the projects that we're working on, but this first one should not be super complicated for you. I want you to focus on training your eyes to see where value is, see where the highlights and the shadows are. Our next project, we're going to do the same thing, only then we're going to add in more value. So we're going to add in like a medium gray, a light gray, a dark gray. Then we're also going to pump in some color as well. So our second project is going to have a little bit of color. By the time we get to our third project, it's all color all the time. So we're steadily walking in that direction. Okay. Again, just so you guys know, this is what I was drawing on. This is my Wacom tablet in case you guys wanted to see it. I don't know why. All right, if you have questions, hang out. If you don't, get to work. You have, again, 10 days to work on this project. Our next class will be next week, Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And again, we're going to go over this project a little bit more. I'll talk more about how to add those gray values. And I'm going to see if I can speed up GIMP because, man, is it slow. And that's that, okay? Hang out if you have questions. Otherwise, have a good day, guys, and I'm around if you need anything, okay? Have a good week and start painting. See you soon.
Hey, Mr. Kozak.
Hey, Taylor, what's up?
So this is like my first time taking a class with you. So I was going to take the intro to drawing class, but it was full. So Berea recommended I take this one. And I just, I'm not a drawing girl. I don't really know how to draw or paint or anything like that. Like my area of expertise is more like theater and stuff.
Okay.
So do you think that this might not be like a good class for me to take? Like, you think it might be a little bit too advanced for me? Because it is a level 400 class.
It is. It is. I'm not gonna lie to you, Kayla. I kind of think so, if I'm really honest. It's not that you couldn't survive in the class. I think you absolutely could pass this class. There's not a doubt in my mind. I think it's gonna take maybe more effort. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to put in doubly the work than even I would expect out of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here's my suggestion. I mean this honestly. I'm going to give you, this is the email to Miss Reisinger. Do you know her at all? Have you ever talked to her? Okay, you know Miss Reisinger. Okay, beautiful. So Miss Reisinger is the secretary of the department.
Right.
I want you to email her, and we're going to get you override into drawing, if that's the class you'd prefer to be in, drawing 1. I think that's going to be more your speed. Where I can kind of teach you and build you up with your level of expertise that you have currently. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. Is that something you'd be interested in doing? Is going back to that drawing 1 class?
No, yeah, I can. Either way works. I'm up for the challenge because Berea's my roommate, so if I need help, she's right here, so she can always help me.
Okay.
I'm up for the challenge. I don't want to like bite off more than I can chew,
Totally. Totally. No, dude, I completely understand. I'm going to paste Reisinger's email in the chat room just so that you have it. You can choose to message her and say, hey, Kozak told me to override into the drawing 1 class, and I'm okay with it. She already knows that I'm okay with it.
Okay.
If you want to hang out here and keep on going, here's what I'd suggest for you. If you haven't already, on our Blackboard, you can open up the course content tab. You can see every project that we're going to do. I have them all posted.
Okay.
So you could go and see what is the semester, what am I asking you to do, and if that feels it's up your alley, by all means. It feels like something like, man, I do want to learn to draw, but I need some basic, intro classes. Then you have that option too. Really, you're at a good place where you get to choose exactly what you want for you. I'll support you either way, but do know, because this is a 400 level class, we are going to go a little bit quicker, and there's going to be some assumptions of like that you just know how to, paint and draw a little bit, basics. So, but yeah, totally up to you. Whichever direction you choose, I'll support you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, totally. Either way, I get to teach you, so
Yeah. It's a win-win.
Okay. It's a win-win. It's a win-win. Have a good day. Think about it. If you do have questions, if you want me to fill you in anymore, just drop me an email. I'll give you whatever answers you want.
Okay, thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Totally. Thanks, dude. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.